Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. And in this video, we're going to talk about problem players. And I'm sure we've all watched D&D horror stories and other gaming horror stories on YouTube and other places. So we all got a pretty good idea of what problem players are. And I like to watch those sometimes, but for the most part, they all wind up with these either really sappy happy endings. The problem player gets what he deserves and everybody gets to go on and have a fun game together without the problem player. Or they just the game ended and I haven't played it anymore. And, the truth is there are a lot of ways to deal with problem players, and there are a lot of things that keep you from dealing with problem players that nobody ever talks about. So we're going to talk about some of that in this video. So let's start by looking at a few different types of problem players. First of all, you got your murder hobo type that people talk about, who they just, every time something comes up, they kill it. They run into somebody at the bar, they kill them. They run into somebody in the dungeon, they kill them. Run into somebody at the grocery store, they kill them. That's just what they do. And the best way to deal with them usually is to take them aside and tell them you can't keep killing people. But usually they get in trouble if they keep doing that. And you can find ways in the game to deal with that player. But that comes up a bunch. At least in some of the groups I've been in. Then you got the person that wants to be in control, that wants to dictate how everybody in the party must be. And my biggest time that I've had problems like that is characters playing good characters. A lot of people says it's everybody that's trying to play an evil character. And I've always had problems with that with the good characters. You can't steal from them. You can't do this. You have to follow, I hate paladins in games, by the way. It's a personal thing. But those players are a little difficult to handle. But you can usually find ways to get around them. Then you have the players that wind up being the bad guys in your game. And I've had this kind of thing happen several times. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of people I talk to that says, I will not play an evil game. I won't play in a game where you have evil characters. There's an evil alignment, dude. There's going to be evil characters. And yes, I have run some evil games. Games where the players have to be the bad guys. And done right, those can be some really fun games. Unfortunately, most people do them wrong. And they don't wind up to be fun games. But I've had several players, well, one player in particular, wind up being the bad guy in my game above and beyond any bad guy I wrote up for the games. And one of the times he did it, it actually worked out for the best. It made the game a lot more fun. The other time, not so much for one particular player. But that's kind of hard. I mean, how far is too far for a player being the bad guy in your game? If you're all adults, it can really work out for your benefit, but yeah, it's just a choice mostly. But how do you deal with the problem players? The number one answer that most people say is you kick them out of the game and go on without them. That's not always that easy. What if the problem player is the guy whose house you're at and there's nowhere else to play? You kind of have to include him. You can't go to his house and say, sorry, bub, you can't play. You're a problem player. but we're still going to play here. Doesn't work like that. I've been in that situation before. But, if you're playing at someone else's house that's not the problem player, it's very easy to boot them. It's just situation. If you boot them, you don't play no more. And because sometimes it's really hard to find another place to play. Believe me. So I've wound up having to include several problem players in games over the time I've run for that reason. But, how much is too much? Other people say, well, you could kill their character and make them make up a new character. That's kind of a jerk move, even if they're being a problem player. You can tell me I'm wrong, but it's still a jerk move to kill somebody's character just because they're not playing them the way you want them to play their character. So I usually don't do that. But I have killed players' characters before. Not on purpose, usually. But problem players come in all varieties, shapes, and sizes, and sometimes they're just not as easy to get rid of as you'd like. Sometimes you really shouldn't get rid of them. Sometimes I like to let them go and see where it goes. But that requires everybody in your group to be an adult about things. Unfortunately, that rarely happens. Even when everybody playing the game is an adult. Problem players are a difficult thing. And it's not always as clean and cut as the stories, as the D&D horror stories makes it out to be. Sometimes you can even miss a problem player if they're a good friend of yours. It causes problems with the new players who aren't used to them. And everybody that has played with them for years just kind of overlooks it. So, there's that. And that it's just really hard sometimes to get rid of a problem player. And then sometimes you really don't want to get rid of the problem player. I'm speaking in circles now. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the video. But how far is too much? It's a question we all have to ask. And how do we deal with it when dealing with them gets a little murky? Now, thank you for listening to my rambling, and hopefully I've given you something to think about. And hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.